Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Trading Brains. I'm your host, Evan Greif, here with my co-host, Angelo Messina. You can catch us weekly on Fridays at 1 p.m. EST and get in touch with us at any time at tradingbrainspodcast@gmail.com, or you can message us on social media, which will be included in our show notes. So today we have brought on a guest, my brother, Alex Greif, and we're going to talk to him about the world of freelance and the gig economy. So, to top it off, Alex, our first question for you is how long have you worked in the gig economy?
Hey there. Well, I've been working in the gig economy pretty much since I've graduated college. I haven't done like a full-time job yet, and it's just been freelance work ever since.
Okay, so how many years have you been working in freelancing?
Um, I guess since 2012. So that's, what is that? 7 years? Seven,
Okay,
right?
cool. So when people talk about the gig economy itself, what sort of work is there? Is it like only one type of job, or are there many different, uh, I guess, projects that can be worked on?
Are you talking about like contract versus permalance versus like what?
Yeah, I mean, tell me more about what the difference is between those two, because I've never heard of permalance.
Permalance, as I understand it, is like a company wants to work with you on a freelance basis, but wants to continue like throwing you work. But I don't know if that's like
It's
I
like
don't know how
hybrid.
contracts work, if they renew your contracts or not, and that ends up being the same thing. So
Hmm.
um, yeah.
So permalance is just kind of a term to describe someone who gets recurring contract work.
I think that yeah, I believe that's what it is. I mean, I can do a quick Google verification on that,
Sure.
but I believe that's what it is.
All right.
but like as you're doing that, when you have a chance, just kind of like tell us about yourself, like why you got into this whole gig and like freelance. It's like, what was the reason behind all of this?
The reason for getting into freelance work, I don't know if it was like intentional or it was like I just always wanted to dance to the beat of my own drum. Like I always wanted to be creative and productive in my own way on my terms. So I sort of gravitated towards what I was interested in, which started with being talent for in the film industry. I was also performing in theater, and then I discovered that I wanted to have more. Like I wanted to feel like I was more of a player in the industry in film, so I joined a mentorship program, and then I entered the film industry as a crew person, and started to see the industry from a different perspective. And so it just kind of like I always found myself in conversations and like groups that sort of led to more freelance work. Um, so that's like all I've ever known. And I have recently thought about the full time versus freelance topic, but I mean, that's if that answers your question, that's basically why I've been freelance so far.
Hmm. No, yeah, I did. Thank you for that.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the
Cool.
next one you
Yeah,
want
well,
to
I
ask?
want to I want to I want to build a little bit on that with deciding whether to do freelance or a more structured job. Would you say that it comes with the territory of the industry you were in, or was it more like your personal preference of wanting to have more control over how you were productive?
I think both. I found that I'm pretty stubborn when it comes to what I like to be working on and what I like to feel productive on.
Hmm.
And I like working with people, but I also consider myself an ambivert. So it's like I like to have my own space to do things. So trying to find a way where that can fit in a full-time scenario is something that I'm exploring now. But to answer your question, I would say it was like a mix of both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
I mean, I
the
can see
film
how film
industry,
would be like
yeah.
that, project based.
Yes, it is very project based. If there's a shoot happening, you know, it's just very, yeah, it is project based.
Okay. Well, I can just cut that out.
No, but I would say, yeah, like the film industry is pretty project based um, if your freelancing skills are required to be in the field.
Right.
Mostly that is going to be project based.
Okay. Well, thank you.
With the project base, it's like how short notice would you find out about like a new project that you'd be working on? Like, would you ever find something like in 2 nights ago or like 2 nights before when you have to start something, or it's like
Honestly, in the freelance game, I feel like you get used to a lot of uncertainty, and you have to be like ready for that, and you have to learn to embrace that because work can literally come in, and it can come in like the night before. That's how soon it can. I've even been in situations where it was like the morning of, you get a text at 7 a.m. and they're like, hey, we need people. Can you show up to set? Like, I know this is a rush call. That's what they'll refer to it as. And those are pretty extreme. But there's moments where, like, at the top of the week, they'll ask for your availability for later in the week. And then sometimes if it's a longer project or for whatever reason, they're just like, their scheduling works out that way, they'll contact you maybe a week or 2 weeks in advance, or sometimes a month in advance. So it's really like, it varies.
okay.
So you can get anywhere from like 2 weeks to 2 hours before it.
So you have to be flexible with like the parts
Yeah.
where you don't have like a schedule already penciled in.
Yeah, I think if you sign up for freelance work and flexibility kind of comes with the territory, as far as I understand.
Right. For the rush calls, is there like an increased pay rate or an incentive for doing that, or is it just kind of like, hey, we have a job, so somebody please come? Do they usually get someone anyway?
I think they usually fill that position, and I think most freelancers probably want the work, so I don't think that they're giving incentives really.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I guess it depends. I guess it depends on what it is you're doing, but if we're talking specifically for like a crew person to work on the field, and it's a rushed call. I mean, yeah, you can like ask for a certain rate because they're in like desperation mode, and maybe you can take advantage on that and just be like, well, I'll do it for this rate.
Right.
But I think most people would just go, sure, if I'm available, I'll do it.
Right. Just ask for a free lunch, something like that.
On top of it.
Hopefully at that point,
Well, on
yeah,
top of whatever your rate is, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, typically on a film set, meals are included.
Okay. Oh, that's
and
awesome.
there's a courtesy breakfast usually too. So, yeah.
How the projects, is it like a couple of days long, or is it like weeks, months, or I'm guessing it will vary, of course, but like what's the normal project length that you normally get?
It depends on what type of shoot we're working on. If it's like a feature film, obviously that's going to take, 3 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks. And then, in the indie world, that's kind of cool because at that point, if it's a good crew, you become sort of like a family, and you keep in touch, and like I still have bonds with people that I met on a feature film when I was working on an independent film like years ago. And then sometimes if it's like an interview shoot, like I recently was an assistant camera on this interview shoot for a murder mystery show that's probably for Discovery ID. So that was like a 1-day shoot.
Wow. Yeah, it's really you have to plan out your
Flexible.
schedule and
You really have to be flexible for sure. You have to be open and trusting, and it's really hard to be that way. I mean, I think it's difficult. I think a lot of people crave structure. A lot of people crave stability. Stability is the main thing. I think that's why people seek full-time work and freelance work. There is a lot of instability that comes with it and uncertainty. And I think uncertainty is something that people are weary of because they have fixed expenses and they have financial goals that they probably want to hit, and I do too. And so, as a freelancer, I think you have to like pick your niche and you have to get good at marketing that to a specific audience, and then just constantly be like upping your skill set to maintain like a steady flow of like that particular work. If you continue reinventing yourself, you have to continue sort of rebuilding a new network every time because
And kind of like earning your stripes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So it's a hustler's environment. You have to constantly be thinking about what is it that you want to be doing and who are you who are you trying to get a job from, who are you trying to impress. So it's a lot, especially if you go from one niche to another niche within the same industry. It's still like a big leap, even if it's like a 2-degree shift in what you do.
Right.
But I think yeah, as a freelancer, just to wrap it up, I mean that I'm trying to remember actually what you asked about it.
a different length of projects.
Oh yeah.
What's like the average project?
Flexibility aspect. Yeah, you have to be flexible, and it does vary. There's a lot, and I think the uncertainty is what people, are not comfortable with.
Do you normally like? All right, this is probably like kind of like going back what you just said, like a schedule planned out weekly, and like I know that it's kind of like just there, just in case, I guess, right? Like, do you plan something throughout the month weekly? And I know it changes constantly because you have different gigs. You might find out in like the day before, day after, whatever the case may be. But like, do you have like some sort of structure? By it could be just like planning a schedule out for the week.
Yeah, for work, or
Basically in general, like for work, of course, and then like probably kind of like planning out like, okay, this is just a day that my off day. I'm not doing anything. I'm just kind of like working on my marketing stuff, kind of like taking care of your personal stuff.
I think you got to feel it out for yourself, but I like to schedule things. I'm trying to train myself to like go to Google Calendar and actually be more disciplined about creating a schedule because I think I've heard multiple times from entrepreneurs that if you schedule it, it's like you're going to get it done. And if there's better apps out there, please do recommend. But yeah, you kind of have to feel it out. And I will put like hold on certain days that I know that there's a project being discussed. And once I'm booked, I know that I pencil that in and it's like official. And then I just work around my projects and I'll try and plan stuff around it. And my friends know to be flexible because I'm flexible with them. I think we're all like in the same sort of business, so we understand that things are constantly changing and we'll catch up like on another time.
Is this like
whenever you can.
Yeah, like I've another question that just came out from what you just said. With your friends, is like these are friends that are directors or that will like need you in the future that you network in the past, or these are friends like kind of like when you started out, they started out the same?
Sorry, can you ask that again?
Sorry, more so with your like you said friends like being flexible with them, like is that like, when you mean by friends, like friends to hang out with or friends that like you have met through work?
So when I say friends, it's pretty much who I'm meeting through work at this point because um, I don't go out to meet new people all the time, although I've been trying to go to meetups and trying to put myself in new environments, but usually it's still film related, and so I'm surrounded by creatives, like because those are like my people. Those are the people that I gravitate towards and that I have a lot in common with. So I would consider most of the friends that I'm rescheduling to hang out with people that I've met through work or in the film industry.
Right. And well, they can be flexible with you because they also experience that, right? They understand how it is.
Yeah, they do. They do. They do.
So, in terms of like meeting people, we all know coronavirus is a huge deal right now, but does your job typically involve a lot of human contact? I mean, is there work that you do away from other people? And do you work with your clients directly, or is there like a organization or some sort of agency that's between you and the final kind of like end user or person who receives your work?
So a lot of the work that I do requires that I be out in the field working with people. So right now, with the coronavirus and the current pandemic, it is taking a toll on my ability to find work, um, which is, a little distressing, but I've got a healthy savings, and I'm finding remote solutions. I'm searching for remote solutions currently to see what I can do, what else I can offer. Maybe taking an online course on something to improve my ability to market my skills or run my business, what I consider a business, my business. Um, so so that's currently where I'm at. I'm not really a lot of film shoots are on hold or they're postponed
Mm-hmm.
because people can't be interacting with each other, and we are in close quarters, and we're constantly helping each other build something or set something up,
Right.
and all that. And I also currently am working in a mentorship program where I am a mentor, and I'm through that I am getting like 15 an hour to provide that sort of service, and I'm glad that I have that going. Um, but during a time like this, it does make me wonder, what remote jobs are out there and which ones are a fit for me to take advantage of in times like this. Um, so this could be an opportunity to expand on my
Portfolio.
yeah, and my income, yeah,
Yeah.
option, yeah.
Yeah, well, times like these are so rare, it's like, nobody could have expected this to
Yeah.
happen in our lifetime. So,
I know it's really crazy.
yeah.
I still don't even, I still can't even like really believe that most of the world has been kind of put on pause. I mean,
Yeah, it's, I think,
as far as it looks to me, I know that
yeah,
there's still
Yeah.
it's,
people like going to work,
uh-huh.
especially essential workers. It's crazy that I go outside and I see like a quiet street, but there's people that are working like crazy round the clock right now. It's insane.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, one of the people in my company was saying just earlier today that it's one of the first times in human history where everybody is in the same situation. Everybody's like experiencing the same thing, which is, having to stay away from each other and be at home and all that stuff. But to bring it back to freelancing, could you tell us about like some of the projects that you've worked on in the past and like some like I don't know interesting stories that you might have from working in your freelance work?
Sure. So, oh God. Well, usually one story that I know resonates with people, um, especially people starting out, because it could sort of be not relatable, but it just makes them feel like less intimidated to just go out and do it. When I was working on an independent short film, this was like years ago when I first started becoming a production assistant at the time. I was driving a truck, and it was like a 14-foot box truck. And I mean, if you know me, that's not really a scenario you would find me in. But I was like driving that thing, just being like, I got this, I got this, I got this, and thinking, I got this. Uh, and then I'm like driving through an intersection, just like a small intersection with like stop signs, I guess, that I thought I abided by, which I still to this day think I did. But I was like crossing the intersection, and all of a sudden I hear this big bang, and I'm like shaking in the truck, and I'm like, what was that, And it was some guy on a motorcycle, and he hit my truck, and he drives up next to me, and he's like, hey, what, watch where you're going, blah, blah, blah. And he's like yelling at me, and I'm like frantic. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I'm like freaking out. So then I apologize, and he sees that I'm like genuinely sorry. And he like drives off on his motorcycle. But then I like go and do like is it not parallel parking? Is that where you're like next to another vehicle, right?
And then you're trying to park to
when
the
you're
curb.
next to a vehicle. Yeah.
Right? You're like next
Yeah,
to
you're
them.
trying to park behind them.
Oh, that's parallel parking. So double parking. It's like what
Oh,
Yeah,
when you
double
park
parking.
right next to. Okay.
Yeah.
So that because I'm in the street. So I did that just to kind of collect myself, and then I go, all right, I'm cool, let's go. I start to like drive off, and then I get snagged on something, and I was like, what could I have possibly gotten snagged on? It's a truck, and apparently it was a car, and so I was like, all right, you know what? Let me just back it up a little bit so I can, angle it out or something. And I backed up into that very car, and I was like, oh shit, I'm causing more damage. And so then I see somebody running out the building, and they're like, hey, and I'm just like, nope. And I start like driving away, which is like what you don't do. You don't run from the scene of the crime. So I'm like freaking out. I'm running. I'm like driving around the block like a couple times, knowing that somebody's like behind me, and traffic is like at a standstill. So I'm like, great. They can literally hop out the car and just like knock on my door at this point. But I eventually get away. Don't know how. And I continue. I show up to like the house that I was supposed to like load up equipment from, and I'm just like acting like nothing happened when like 10 minutes ago I was like freaking out and thought I was going to end up in prison. So then I spoke to the producer, and I was like, hey, this thing happened, and like it's freaking me out, and I'm really, really worried because I'd never been in that situation before. And they were like, oh, okay, well, we'll figure it out. We'll talk about it afterwards. And luckily, a couple days later, she called me to let me know, hey, like I called the rental company. Like they took care of it. Like it went away. I was like, oh. I was like, I don't know what mafia you're like talking to, but thank you.
How did you made this go
Looking after
away?
you.
It's beyond me.
Yeah.
I know a guy. Don't worry.
Yeah. I was like, all right, cool. And then I was comfortable driving trucks after that.
Were you?
Well,
Yeah, I know. I guess, most people would like not be, but I luckily was part of a mentorship program where I had a group of people say, it's cool, that stuff happens, like keep going. So I had encouragement to keep going. So that's just one story. And there's so many other stories that I could think of. I don't know if you want to hear another one, but I'd have to think about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, if no more stories, we'd love to hear like where people can find your work, stuff you've done in the past, and also how they can get a hold of you if they, have some questions about the freelance, way of living and how people get work and how to get started.
Mm-hmm. So your question was like where they could find my work and like previous stuff that I've done on film sets, or?
Well, if you don't have anything publicly available, let's say on like YouTube or Instagram or anything like that, then that's fine. But yeah, I'm sure you've worked on stuff not just for clients or for gigs, but your own projects. So I'm kind of right now giving you a platform to share with our
Oh my
listeners
God, thank you for this
what
platform.
you're doing. Yeah, there you go.
So I've worked on like big feature films. Um, some of the Marvel movies, like what was that, Doctor
Strange.
Marvel? Yes, I worked on that. That was crazy. That was like a 3 a.m. rush call time. And we were shooting till like 8 p.m. wrap. So I know nurses work hard, but film people work hard too, and it's crazy sometimes. Now, I wouldn't sign up for that again, because I do believe in like a work-life balance that I've learned I like to abide by. But I've worked on things like Doctor Strange, Law and Order SVU, working right next to Mariska Hargitay, and a lot of independent features as well as shorts, other television shows like Madam Secretary, and yeah, and now and I've done a lot of like corporate shoots, a lot of branded content shoots with VaynerMedia. There's a bunch of companies that I could name. I did a lot of fashion shoots with some of the biggest sort of fashion production houses. North Six is a very big player in that, and I did a lot of work for them because they paid well for production assistants. And I worked with all kinds of like actors and models and celebrities. Like I've even worked with Kendall Jenner at some point, Gigi Hadid, other high-profile people on set. So there's been a lot of experiences. I've worked at Shetler Studios in Brooklyn Navy Yard. I've been sort of all over, and now I've transitioned a little bit more into, or I've added the niche of videography onto that list of experiences. And I really liked that I became more hands-on with the creative process. I was able to be in charge of basically what I was shooting and what the deliverable was going to look like in terms of the final edit of the video.
Right.
And I started this like maybe 6 months ago, and I started networking, going to events, hitting up people that I knew were videographers and asking if I could help them out in any way, or if they needed to throw me work, like they could. I mean, it's pretty bold when you don't really have much of a portfolio at that point. Now I've got a bit more, and I've worked for Henry Street Settlement, which is a nonprofit organization. Recently shot their gala, and I've worked with Soho House, which is a members only sort of, I don't know if you call it a club, but it's like for creatives, and there's a membership fee, and it's very kind of exclusive. Like not even Kim Kardashian can be a part of it, so I don't know what their selection process is.
Wow. That's
So it's
very
like very,
selective.
yeah, it's like they look for certain kind of people. So, and I always saw it as like a very big deal, and it kind of is, I guess. But I started to find myself in rooms with people where I was expected to deliver a good product, and they looked to me as a professional. And mind you, that was me like taking a leap of faith and just kind of like doing it and trusting myself and putting myself out there and just saying yes to things.
Right.
And I also I also worked in casting as well, which I did not mention earlier. I've worked in casting and still open to more of that camera operator casting work, where you put talent on camera and then you associate their media, like their video, their likeness, their audio, to their actor profile on casting networks. So I did a lot of that for clients and agencies. And where was I going with that thought?
So
Wherever
you're
you
kind of
like.
like well diverse.
Oh,
Like you're able to
yeah.
pick up this
So no,
vibe.
I've got it. So working in casting introduced me to certain people in production. Like there was a producer who really enjoyed working with me in a casting setting, and then invited me to lunch. We talked. I told them about what it is that I wanted to do in terms of videography and maybe eventually DP direct.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, "Well, why don't you come on set to this men's fashion brand that we were casting with you for, and you can just shoot video. It can be for your portfolio if it doesn't end up going anywhere." So I went there and I shot for free, for spec, for 2 days. I edited something together for them. They were very appreciative. It was nice enough for them to compensate me in some way for that time. And they actually reached out to me, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, about how, like, soon do people hit you up for a job, or when does it come in? And this job, in the third week of January of this year, I got a text from the VP of Creative Services, and they were like, "Hey, are you available to shoot next week? By the way, it's in Miami." And I was like, "Oh, yes, let me check. I'm free. Take me to Miami. Like, I'm so, get me out of New York City." So those kinds of opportunities are really, really cool, and I want to invite more of that into my experience. And if that would happen on a consistent basis, I'd be like chilling. I'd be great. I'd be like, you know what? I got this. Like, this is great. And I mean, I'm building and I'm constantly reinventing what it is that I offer. So that's why it can sort of seem like I'm coming from like a meek sort of place, but like I'm a pretty humble person, so I'm always like checking myself. I do feel like, though, I do have a strong background and it's varied, and I'm sort of putting my feelers out there now that I have the opportunity during a global pandemic to assess what my skills are and to see, what else I can do with that, whether that be contract or permalance or full time. I'm sort of exploring my options right now as we speak.
Or a truck driver.
No, I don't think I'm made for that.
We still need those. But yeah. All right.
I don't
Well,
know if
thanks
we
for
will.
sharing with us, Alex. It's great to hear about these
Oh,
projects, and some of them I didn't already know. So.
Oh, good.
it's great. It's fantastic. Like actually, like have like a creative mind. Like actually, like to put their heart out there, and that's like wonderful to see. Like everything's working out. Everything's falling into place. Um, is there anything
Yeah.
else you want to add on to that? Like,
I think it's
or
like,
like
what for?
if someone comes up, like just say, I'm new to this. What do I start? What's the top three things you want to give as advice
Hmm,
in the
um,
free world?
in the freelance world, I would say talk to as many people as you can that are doing what it is that you're doing and model them. Number one. After you've gone out and networked with people to get a feel for how they see the industry and how they're navigating the industry, I would start, well, I guess like that's part of like modeling, where, get a portfolio together, and constantly be learning. So I would say network, model behavior, and brush up on your skills that you have learned are required for what it is that you need to do.
Right. And I think jumping back to an earlier point, just to add on, like what you were saying about taking a leap of faith and just kind of like believing that you could do it, is definitely
Yeah,
something that I think
that's the
in
bonus.
anything really, not
Yeah,
just the gig economy or freelance work
and
in
that doesn't
life,
go
just
away.
learn by doing, you know.
Yeah, like I'm currently in that now. Anytime that I reinvent myself a little bit or I make a shift, I have to remember that it's about that. It's about taking a leap and putting yourself out there, and showing up is 80% of it. Um, and that that's advice that I need to continue to follow as well.
Yeah.
And that's what
Okay,
led me
cool.
to Miami, because I showed up and I took a leap of faith and I put myself out there, and I told people what it is that I wanted with certainty. And it was amazing to hear people say, I think Alex is a talented young director. He's got an eye. People who are way older than you, like in their 50s or more, saying these things about you in like an email. It's very like, I don't know how to
Validating?
explain the feeling. Validating yeah, it's definitely validating, and it made me feel more confident about my work and what I'm able to offer. So if anybody's interested in seeing some of my work, you can see my videography and my photography on Instagram at Greif Videography, which is AGREIF, and then videography, VIDEOGRAPHY. Good at spelling. You can also go to my website at www.alexgreif, GREIF, F as in Frank.com. So,
Okay.
because a lot of
Nothing
people
else?
think S when they hear you. When they hear you spell it
and
out. A lot of people.
it's hard if you're not using like a really good
I
microphone.
thought
or
it would be
or
the bet
enunciate.
with the E and the I.
You see?
That too. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I didn't hear about the F and the F and the S. Well, now it
Yeah.
makes sense now, but I always thought like the spelling of your name.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So that's where you can see like more of the stuff that I'm doing, and then of course I have my own personal content that I put out. But we're talking about my video and film related kind of stuff. So
No, it's okay. I'll include all that in the show notes. So
Yeah. And in the descriptions as well.
Yeah.
Evan, is there anything else you want to add on?
Just one thing actually. What does DP Direct mean?
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Thank God.
Yeah, like I mean, I was thinking maybe I should just let it go and talk about it after, but I'm curious now. So.
So you know what a director is on like a film set typically.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're sort of
They're kind of
overseeing
like maintaining the creative direction of.
I believe that's like
director producer.
Yeah, I mean, there's roles like that as well. But a DP. Oh, I see what you're saying. It's a director of photography typically. Director of photography term.
Okay.
And if anybody's watching and is not aware of what that is, it's basically the person that's in charge of what camera they're going to be using, what lenses they're going to be using, what filters they're going to be using, and what's going to be included in the frame and how it's going to be shot, camera movement, things like that. How to make the director's vision come to life with camera.
Right, through like the technical limitations of the frames and the lenses and all that stuff. It's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I want to know.
I mean, as a videographer, you're sort of dipping your toes in both, essentially. I know there's a lot of people in the film industry who would consider videographers to be like, a joke, but I like the feeling of being like more hands-on and being in charge of like what is going into the frame and then how the final edit is turning out. So I can even I wonder if I can do a screen share of like some of the things that I've done.
Yeah, let's go for it.
You're gonna see it. Actually, let me open it in a new tab so you don't see all of my tabs.
Yes, let's keep this privacy compliant, of course.
God.
No, it's just you're gonna see all my tabs and you're gonna think I'm crazy. All right, let's see how this works.
Let's see if you can screen share while we're recording.
Are you seeing it?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, seeing it.
I just see my ugly face. There it is.
All right, so this is my videography Instagram account. This is something I recently put out during the pandemic. This was just one clip. So this is only one clip that I found from this event that I went to, Sony Creative Space. And it was one clip, like I mentioned, and I challenged myself to get as much as I could out of that clip. So I I created insert shots by scaling the video to make it bigger, and then I put some effects on it to kind of make it more interesting. And then, of course, song selection is a very important part. But I don't know if you can hear the music. You probably can't.
I can hear it. I'm hoping we don't get copyright stricken, but...
Can you hear it now?
Yeah, I can hear it.
All right. So it's going to restart right now.
Wow.
So
that's all taken from one just straight up recording, and then you're just kind of like in post changing what it looks like. Wow.
Yeah. That's one clip. Like, it's crazy to think that. And then this is some work that I did for Soho House. This is an artist that was painting a mural, and they wanted time-lapse footage, so I was able to do that.
Okay.
Kind of mixed in there. And then this was sort of like a branded content piece that I did for our mother.
Oh, wow.
I came to this country in 1982. I went to school to learn how to sew as a seamstress back in Ecuador.
So it's like there's different media here. There's different vibes. I like kind of like a fierce kind of like energy in my work. So that's pretty much. So that's just like sort of a taste of like the stuff that I do.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks a lot, Alex. There's some of that stuff I hadn't even seen.
Oh, wow.
And that first one with the single clip, that was really cool. I wouldn't have imagined that was just one take, right?
I know, right? Like if you saw
able to make something out of it.
Yeah, if you saw like the regular clip, it's like so boring. Like I want to actually find
it's like
it.
somebody's like it's like somebody's like shitty
like
Instagram
what,
post or whatever.
Long,
you know, like,
2 seconds long.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I actually want to find it for you, but
Well,
I'm sure people will be able to find it later.
Yeah. I'm just like
yeah. No, do you want to add something else to it? Like, if anything, we could send it. We could put a link back to it. Or if anything else you want to add on.
Yeah, we'll definitely include a link in the show notes to that Instagram page that we were just looking at. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right, sounds good. I just wanted to show you that clip, but I can't seem to find it. That's cool.
Well, if anything else, include this week episode. Alex, thank you so much for this week about freelancing, and like kind of like what the advantages, why will people be attracted to this kind of work, the dislike, the projects that you have worked on. Overall, it's fantastic. Thank you for all the great content that you have put out there for the world to see. I know that's a big...
giving us content too, with this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if we'll add all your information in our show notes, as well as our descriptions in our videos. Give you a shout out. People look up Alex Greif videography, and if you need any other work out there, he's your guy. For Training Brains, we'll post Fridays on YouTube, and as well as all other hosting domains. So we'll catch you on the flip side, fine sirs and ladies. See you next week.
Yeah, see y'all next week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.